I agree with you. Like from the very beginning of the season, like all the way back to the New England game in the season opener, some of these issues have reared their head. And like all year long, even when the Eagles were winning games, you were saying, yeah, shouldn't it look better than this though? But I would contend the difference between that team then and what's happening now is like as ugly as it might have been. I feel like the Eagles still knew how to finish games. Like I remember going all the way back to the win against the Rams. They just put their head down and they were willing to just run the ball, do whatever it took, whether, let's get a 12-play, 80-yard field goal drive and let's get the hell out of here. Style points be damned. And these last few weeks, it doesn't even seem like they're capable of doing that. Like even knowing that it hasn't always been pretty, does it, whether it's a loss of confidence or whether it's getting away from what works, do you feel like there was some kind of shift there?
Oh, I do. And I think that, that was the thing that kept everybody from panicking early, right? It was this feeling that, and I'm sure we talked about this, that as bad as the Eagles looked, every game, there was a moment where they said, you know what? We're the defending NFC champs. This is what we do. Let's go win this game. And whether it was, running the ball and just taking the wind out of the sails of the opposing team or big stops on defense, like that second half of their win in Kansas City when the defense really rose up, somehow, some way, somebody would make a play. And now suddenly they can't do it. And they still have the same weapons. That offensive line is still really good. Suddenly they either aren't trying to run the ball as well as much as they had, or they're not running it as well as they had. A.J. Brown, who's dominant for, most of the first half of the season, has suddenly disappeared. Jalen Hurts, seems to be making the wrong decisions when he used to make all the right decisions. We've already talked about the defense. I think for whatever reason, there has come a moment where they were always relying on themselves to come up with that moment where they would make the big play. And now that they can't, I do think there's a confidence hit. I think the words we've heard the last 6 weeks, we've got to stick together. We got to play to our standard. We'll find a way to fix it. We know what kind of team we are. They all ring hollow now. And really if I were an Eagles fan, if I remember the Eagles, I'd be really worried heading into the playoffs, because if they hadn't stopped the slide yet, what makes anybody think that all of a sudden they're going to wake up this week and go, oh, well, it's the playoffs. We can fix it now. I think that team, the body language, the things you're hearing out of that locker room is all alarming. It looks like they've just lost their confidence and their feeling of invincibility.
Can I interest you in my tinfoil hat Eagles homer theory?
Sure.
Okay. And this is, if I'm a blindly optimistic Eagles fan, this is what I came up with. Jalen Hurts dealing with an injury to his throwing hand, injured his finger in that game against the Giants. A.J. Brown dealing with a knee injury. Sounds like both should be available against the Giants, but if I'm an Eagles fan, I find myself hoping that those injuries force Philly into the most conservative, run-heavy game plan you've ever seen in your life. And against Tampa Bay, that might actually work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily the way they would want to get to the obvious conclusion that they should run the ball, but whatever gets them there, that, and we've talked about this all year long too, that is what the Eagles do best. As good as A.J. Brown is, as good as Jalen Hurts is, they are a run-first team. They're at their best when they just maul opponents up front, run like crazy. Jalen Hurts runs the RPOs, the play actions, and nobody knows whether he's going to keep the ball, hand the ball off to somebody, or roll out and throw. That's not what this offense is. That, for whatever reason, Brian Johnson has not made that a focal point. He likes deep throws. He's definitely taken more shots down the field at weirder times than in the past. He doesn't like to rely on that run strength when he knows the Eagles need to put together a drive or knows they need to pick up a couple of yards, except for their 1 yard tush push plays. But that, to me, is the best case scenario. They go in and they say, we're going to run the ball 55, 60% of the time. We're going to, roll out Jalen Hurts and make people think we're going to run, and then he's going to throw. That's what the Eagles offense is. And if they go conservative, and it looks like they go conservative early in the game, that might be a sign that they've kind of wisened up and, might be able to maybe get that offense back on track.
Just take it back to the old days, at least for a week, and see where that gets you. Okay, one last thing on the Eagles, and I'm going to ask you to prognosticate a little bit, and I apologize, but assuming they can't pull out of this nosedive, I mean, it's easy to imagine there's going to be change. I mean, there's already been a D coordinator change. Easy to imagine a change on the offensive coordinator. If they go out as badly as it looks right now, is that enough? Like, should we be prepared for like a surprise head coaching change? Like, how much angst do you think there is really in Philadelphia?
Well, I don't think Nick Sirianni will be in trouble 1 year after he had taken his team to the Super Bowl. I don't necessarily think he should be, but this organization, Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, they are usually more proactive than reactive. I don't know that they would wait to see how bad things got before they made a change. And I think if they go one and done in the playoffs and they look at the last 2 months, they obviously think they have a team that should be competing for the Super Bowl. And they will look at it as an absolute failure. And they'll take a hard look at, what has really got A.J. Brown looking so down and so beaten, all those rumblings about locker room instability and people unhappy with the coordinators, how much truth was there to that. And I think, I guess the way I put it was, I wouldn't say Nick Sirianni is in trouble, but you can convince me that he might be if they lose this first round game. I could see where they're going to take, a really, really hard look at everything and might decide, what, we have the team, but maybe we don't have the coach. I just couldn't possibly rule that out if they lose.